Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell. Brought to you by...
Coordinating information on multiple signs and displays can be a big hassle. SDD presents Kiwi Sign, a digital signage controller that is not only easy to use, but cost-effective. Imagine being able to control all your digital signage from one easy dashboard, whether from your phone, tablet, or computer, to anywhere in the world. It even works with your existing signs and displays. SDD-US.com, SDD-US.com. All right, it's time for yet another edition of Music Night at the Majestic. With us tonight is Kelly Lang. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we're thrilled to have you here. So you've got a great story because you were basically born into the business.
I was. My dad worked for Conway Twitty from the time I was 1 year old up until Conway passed. And if you are a country music or even a rock and roll fan, Conway Twitty's name is just iconic. And for my parents to have the opportunity to work with Conway and move our whole family over from Oklahoma when I was a small child to Hendersonville, Tennessee, it was really scary. It was something that, we never thought we would end up doing, but thank goodness in hindsight, because it's really played into helping me with my musical career later on.
Yeah, on my old country flashback radio show, we had an interview with Conway, and the thing that struck me most, it was the fact that we were talking about how some celebrities, complain about how their privacy is invaded, once they get big and whatnot, and so he was saying, he says, some people ask me, do you ever get tired of where you can't go out to eat, somebody coming up, to you, interrupting your dinner? And he says, I tell them, no, the reason why I'm able to have the life I have is because of those people.
He really did have a great affection for his fans. I have seen him when someone was really aggressive with him, like just really pushy when he was trying to eat. I have seen him ask kindly if they would mind till he finished eating. But I felt that was really the way he handled it was very respectful, and he kind of set his own bubble around his privacy with kindness, which I really respect a lot.
Yeah, well, the funny thing was, as he's saying this, that he pauses and he says, who's really got it made? Those guys in Kiss.
I've heard him say that.
They got the makeup. They can come off stage, they take it off, they can go eat, do whatever they want to do, and nobody's going to know who they are.
I have heard him say that, and it's so true, right? I mean, they could just be anything they wanted to be or say what they wanted in costumes. That's hilarious. Yeah, well, the funny thing is, I know the listeners, the last thing that they were expecting to hear from Conway was him talking about Kiss. I have a funny story to tell you about that. Do you remember the era of music where Madonna was married to Sean Penn and it was all over the news?
Oh, yeah.
Someone asked Conway, they said, what do you think about Madonna? And he said, I don't. I just think that's so funny. I don't know why, but it was so perfect,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, is there any memories that you have that stand out when you think about those days?
Yeah. Oh, well, there's thousands.
I'm sure there's a lot, but is there, a couple that, just come to mind immediately?
The one in particular, my dad started working with him on Halloween, and this time of year always makes me think of all that. But he would always call and tell my dad how much he appreciated him and loved him every Halloween, on their anniversary. Well, the year that Conway passed, that Halloween had come up because he passed away in September. And so the first Halloween that was coming up was, a little month over. And my mom and dad were driving down the street and the radio was not on. And they turned the radio on. And the very first thing was, and it was right at he started working for Conway at midnight. Okay. At midnight, they turned the radio on and it said, "Hello, darling." And then it went off.
Oh,
there was nothing else after that.
Wow.
So I get chills even thinking about that. But that was very poignant, I think. It was very, very important for my dad to have a little bit of closure with that. And on a sweet note, I remember when I was 6 years old, went to Conway's home in Moore, Oklahoma, and he would always play songs that he was getting ready to record for whomever was around, the organization or the families or whatever that were around. And I thought all little kids did this. I didn't think I was all that special at the time. But looking back, sitting at his feet, he was sitting on a black patent leather couch, and he had his guitar, and he started singing "You've Never Been This Far Before." And he said, "Now here's where the bass line's going to be. Boom, boom, boom." Well, in history now, you know that he ended up singing what the bass line would have been, and it ended up being just iconic for him. So, but I got to hear that before he recorded it, and hear his excitement about that bass line, which ultimately was his vocal. So it was really fun.
Wow. That's wonderful that you've got these memories.
Yeah.
I mean, you really got a chance to experience something that, other people can only dream of.
Well, I wrote a song after he passed. My husband, T.G. Shepherd, is a country singer too. I'm sure you're aware of him. And Conway used to do a lot of shows with T.G., and I used to see them on the road together. So when T.G. and I were dating, we were talking about our friendships with Conway, our mutual friendships with Conway. And that night on the way home from our date, the song Goodbye, Darling, which is an answer to Hello, Darling, kind of came to my mind. And I was so overwhelmed with my affection and appreciation for his music, and I didn't tell him enough. I thought I would have more time with him. He was very, very young, and I had no earthly idea that would have been the last time I would have seen or talked to him, but I would have told him everything that I wrote down in this song. And I didn't have a pen or a piece of paper, so I wrote it on a napkin with a lip liner.
Oh, wow.
And I recorded it the next day as a gift just for the kids. And it ended up being, a career opportunity song for me. And so many of his fans are just, still connected to him and his music. And he would be very humbled by the fact that the fans still think so much of him. He was a humble man.
Well, I know there's a video of Loretta asking you to sing that on YouTube. It's, quite a popular video. That had to be really something in itself, that moment.
Oh, man. Anything Loretta does is like gold to me. I love her so, so much. I've known her since I was a little girl, too. And she wrote about my dad in her book. My dad was quite the road manager for Conway, but he offered a lot of really wise help to other people. George Jones wrote about him, just about how honest he was and how he helped them on the road. And he could have taken advantage of certain situations, and he obviously just did not. And I don't know. It's in hindsight, and like talking with you, it seems like a magical fairy tale life. And honestly, it was. I just didn't realize it at the time. I just thought everybody's daddy worked for a superstar. It just never dawned on me that it was unusual.
That is the way it goes for everybody, though. I don't care how big of an experience it is. Is only after the fact do you realize how big that moment was.
Yeah, you do. And I think, when you mature and you realize how fleeting life is, and how important it is to tell people that you love them or you admire them when they can hear you.
Exactly. Now, when you had your first single that hit the Billboard charts, you were only 15, correct?
Just a baby, yes.
Now, how did that record come about?
Well, it's really funny, Michael. I felt like I always had more desire than talent. I was relentless. I was down on Music Row almost every day. I'd make my parents drive me down there, and I made friends with all of the big publishers and writers and stuff. They go, "Oh, here she comes. She's not going away. We might as well write something for her, I guess." I don't know. But Stuart Harris wrote this song called Lady, Lady for me, and it was very age appropriate. And so I recorded it. And strangely enough, that's when CMT was just starting out. And CMT saw it kind of growing and going up the charts quite a bit. And they were looking for content. So they chose that song. They paid for my video just so they would have extra content on their programming. Can you believe that? It ran all the time. And, I think that was just a springboard for a lot of really cool things that were coming on right after that. I ended up doing like the Ralph Emery Morning Show. I was on there a lot. And that was a stepping stone, excuse me, that was a stepping stone for like the Judds and Lori Morgan and Dolly Parton, so many others that came way before me. And then I went on to do Nashville Network and ultimately Star Search. That was a real springboard.
Yeah. Now on that, you made it all the way to the finals, correct?
Can you believe that? And if you look back at the video, you'd be like, how'd that happen? I was very happy and very enthusiastic. And I had such a blast. I wasn't the strongest of vocalist, but oh man, did I believe in it though. I loved it very much.
Now what was that like? Because I mean, that had to be a very overwhelming thing to take on with everything going on and all that.
It is, but when you're 18, and that's another thing that happened to me. Star Search came to me when I was 17. That was before they had the youth in Star Search. I was too young, so they said, "Oh, well, you're too young," and I thought they just don't like me, But a year later, they came back and they asked me to try out again, and I made that year. But a strange thing happened though when I went up against a girl named Teresa Henderson, and she had been winning for like 6 weeks in a row. And she didn't like me coming in because I upset her apple cart, I think. So we tied, and I had to come up the next week. Actually, we tied, if I can remember it correctly, it was given to the audience to break the judges' tie. It's the first time it had ever happened. And the audience tied us as well. So I had to go back the next week and compete against Teresa and a third artist. And I won that night. And so they made me come back for the semifinals, and I did not make it through the semifinals. But strangely enough, Teresa and I have remained friends, and I catch up with her via Facebook and stuff. Now she lives in Florida. So, but she ended up working on Music City Tonight along with me many years later too. So it's a very small little world.
It is. Now, tell me this, did you at least get to try to shake Ed McMahon down for some of that Publishers Clearinghouse money when you were on there?
It was really funny. My mom she's so cute and so funny and bubbly and stuff. And I remember when we were at the NBC studios, I've never told anybody this, so this is embarrassing and funny at the same time. We were standing in the NBC corridor right after we'd filmed. And she had not seen him before. It was right before we filmed. She had not seen him before. And he's a big man. He had a big presence about him. And when he walked in the door, my mom goes, "Well, hello." I was like, "Mom." I was mortified. But it was funny. He was, I didn't get a chance to really get to know him. I got to know his wife at the time. Her name was Victoria, and she was so sweet to me and loved that I was, a little girl from Tennessee, and I was the youngest one at the time that ever had done it, and it was just a very surreal. I can't imagine what the kids on American Idol are going through, other than this was probably wouldn't you say it was like a precursor to American Idol? Something?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But when you're in it, you don't realize how big it is. You just think you're just singing to that, 300 or 400 people in that audience. But it surpassed that by many, many millions.
Yeah. Now, from your time on Star Search and all the stuff on TNN with Ralph and Crook and Chase and everything, what are the things that stuck with you professionally? Like this, either the skills or the knowledge that you gained from that you still use now?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I learned so much being on the Ralph Emery Morning Show. I teased that was my college, because he was rough on me. He loved me, but he was, I don't like that song, change it. So I learned to change the song in the last minute. I learned to sing live. I learned to, even if you're sick, you're scheduled, you're going to go on whether you like it or not, and it was a tough education, but well needed, and that right. would get me prepared for things a little bit bigger, like more national things. But, I just think time and honing in on your craft it took me a lot of time to find my voice. I have finally realized that the older that I've gotten, I sing in a lower register, and it's more warm for me to sing like that. And I wish that I had known that earlier in my career, because I would I would have probably not gone like this.
Mhm.
A lot of things, but it just takes time to hone in on your skills.
Yeah. Now, your songwriting, that's one of the things I want to talk about with you. You've written a ton of songs, had a lot of them recorded.
Hmm.
Which when you go to write, what's your inspiration? Is it, like something you just saw? Is it a thought that comes into your head? How do you approach it?
That's a really great question. Thank you. You know, you can. I can do this, but it's not my forte. A lot of people, they make an appointment. Let's meet at 2. They meet up with another songwriter, and they'll come up with a verse and a chorus and go to lunch and come back and finish. It can be done like that, and I have done things like that before, but it seems to me like those are mechanical, or they're not as heart driven. To me, my favorite writings that I have done have been when I'm very, very quiet, like in a bathtub or even the pool. I write a lot of things when I'm really calm, and it happens to be around water a lot. Or when I'm just waking up from sleeping, a melody or lyric will come to me, and I honestly feel that they're inspired from God. Honestly, I feel like I'm just holding the pen, and those are some of my favorite songs because I can tell they're not pushed or forced, and they're not coming from my head. The songs that come from my heart have a little bit more pure meaning to them, I believe.
Yeah. Now, you just had a song that Ascension Hospital is going to run with, correct? Tell us the song and how that came to be and all that good stuff.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I wrote this song, I'm Not Going Anywhere, 16 years ago. And it was right before I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I've learned that my writing is like a precursor for what's coming up in my life. So I got to be very careful with what I write. But I was writing it about someone who was taking care of a patient, and the patient was getting all the attention, but bless her heart, she was really run down, and I could see it. And I kept thinking, if you could just turn your attention on the caregiver of the person and how kind she was to her husband and how sweet she was. She kept saying, I'm not going anywhere, and I love you, and I'm here, so I thought that's a beautiful thing to comfort somebody with. And so came up with this song, and it was originally just going to be an instrumental. And my husband, TG, really said, that's a beautiful melody, but you need words to it. So he challenged me, and I did it. And he ended up cutting it with Crystal Gale on a duet project that he did, which was just a wonderful gift to me because I love Crystal as well. But I guess about 13 years ago, I performed this song at the Bluebird Cafe. And Ascension Hospitals was looking for a song to go hand in hand with one of their upcoming commercials. And they were going to play it in Nashville, or Tennessee, and Texas. So they used it for that. After seeing me on YouTube, it was on YouTube. And they liked it so much. But then, of course, COVID came along and changed all of the protocol and how doctors are seeing. They had to change the commercial up a little bit. But we just got word today they're getting ready to take it national with the new I guess they're going to be using masks and gloves in the new commercial, I would assume, but I'm really, really grateful for that.
That's great. And then another national thing, national anthem on CBS for the Titans game. No pressure.
No pressure. Well, as my affiliation with Ascension is so strong and so beautiful. They called me, and I didn't even realize this, but Ascension is the actual hospital for the Tennessee Titans. So they asked if I would be open to doing that because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I'm a 15-year cancer survivor. So I was just thrilled. First of all, I'm thrilled to still be here. Second of all, I'm thrilled to be included in something so huge like that. It's very scary, though.
I would think. So, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, another one of, I mentioned the video on YouTube with Loretta, bringing you up, to sing Goodbye, Darling. Another one that's quite popular is of you and Barry Gibb singing Islands in the Stream. Tell us how that came to be and the story behind that.
Well, Barry and I became friends when we had a really, really bad tornado that came through our hometown here in Hendersonville. And he was in the process. I had heard, I did not know who he was. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't know him. I knew he had bought the Johnny Cash home, which is about 3 miles from where I live. And he had not seen this house yet, but I thought, I'm going to write to somebody that I knew, an insider person that might get to him, and explain to him how bad our community has been hit. And if he happened to be in town, would he be open to coming out and waving at the locals and just kind of a new fresh start for him? So I was really thrilled that he not only wanted to come be part of that, but he asked if he could sing with me. And I was, it's life-altering kind of thing. So that began our friendship. The first time I met him, he was sitting on June Carter's bed playing a guitar with a cowboy hat on.
Wow.
So we sang that song in her home and in her bedroom. So it was just, I can't even wrap my brain around that. I can't explain it how
I mean, that's the essence of a magical moment.
Oh God, it's supernatural, really. And so I asked him, I said, why did you choose to sing with me? Because honestly, Michael, he had not sung in months, maybe even a year prior to that. And he says, it's serendipity. I just can't explain it. It is. We're going to be friends for life. And we have. And we've traveled together, and I performed that song with him on the Opry. And my favorite time in performing that with him, other than doing benefits and stuff with him, has been when we inducted Kenny Rogers into the Country Music Hall of Fame. He asked me to come sing that with him there, which was, he could have had Dolly, he could have had Carrie Underwood or whatever, but he just feels comfortable with me, I guess. And
wow.
We're super close. Compliment. Oh my gosh, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Now Barry's not the only legendary singer that you've performed with, though. So
I know
about some of the other people. I mean, it's like a who's who.
You're so sweet. Well, I met Olivia Newton-John when I was a little girl. I was 6 years old when I met her. And of course, we didn't remain friends or anything at that time. She was well on her way with her career, and I was just a little kid. So imagine my excitement when I met her again through Barry Gibb. He was doing a show with her and invited me to the show, and back later on at their house for dinner, and we just hit it off. We're both breast cancer survivors, and we were talking about all that and being a mother and singer, and we have bonded like none other, and we've become like sisters. We talk all the time. And also I've done duets with Lee Greenwood and Paul Schaefer from Late Night with David Letterman, and but my favorite's my husband, TG. We make beautiful music together.
I can't imagine why you would say that.
He's the most...
Actually, TG had called in on my old country flashback show. I was telling you about, Conway, being on, and it was supposed to be like a 15-minute call in, and so TG talking, about his music, and then one thing leads to another, and we start talking about racing.
Oh boy, you got started on it.
And then the next thing you know, we're both looking at our watches going, we really got to get going.
Yeah, he knows his racing. I've never really seen a race live before. I think if I were to, I would probably get more into it. But to me, it's just a lot of this. I haven't gotten into it just yet.
Trust me, there's a lot more to it.
Oh, I know. I understand. And he's so passionate about it. I know it had to have been really exciting for him.
Oh, it was a case. Neither one of us, wanted to end it, because I say we were so into the details and stuff, and we said, okay, we'll do this again, but you know how schedules go.
Well, TG was like, when we were dating, we dated for a long time, so I was kind of jealous of NASCAR because I only had him because he didn't live here. I only had him on Sundays because he would leave. He would come in from out of town, stay with me on Sundays, like around the house, and I'd feed him dinner or whatever. Then he'd have to go back to his house and not. And I was so upset that all he wanted to do was watch NASCAR the whole time he was with me. So at least, that was a worst case scenario. I could handle that.
Well, if it's any consolation, my wife can relate.
Yeah, a lot of wives can relate.
Now, get back to your records. One of the things that is unique about you is you sing and you write songs, but you also produce your own stuff.
Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I do.
How did you, where did you get the desire to do the producing side, and then where did you learn all the technique and everything? Because each of those things is its own art form.
It is, and some might argue that it's because I'm a control freak, and I probably wouldn't deny that. And the older I've gotten, the more I'm more confident with saying what I like and what I like to hear. And, the bottom line is, though, Michael, once you start surrounding yourself with such major players, like the players that I choose to use on my projects are the best of the best. And once you go into the studio with that heavy hitter of a musician, it really produces itself, to be honest. And you go in there, you give them the idea, you kind of know what you want to hear, you kind of describe it. They play it better than you could have ever imagined in the first place. So then you get into the technical part of it. When you get back to the laying down of the vocal, nobody's harder on me than I am on my vocal. And an engineer or another producer might go, yeah, that's fine. But I'm so picky, and I go back and I sing it again and again and again. But then I've also realized that I've gotten into a beautiful relationship with my co-producer, Buddy Hyatt, where he has brought out a lot of confidence in me and a lot of things that I didn't know that I had vocally. And I also know that he's got my back. When I can't hear something, he'll tweak something and I go, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that. So we make a really good team. So he is listed as co-producer on this project with me. And it feels good to give up a little bit of the reins, because and rely on someone. But before now, it was really important for me as a woman to claim that as one of my unique gifts, because a lot of women just get kind of brushed to the side in the music industry and they're not allowed a voice. And so I'm really proud that I've been able to do that.
Yeah. Now, who are the people that, like, when you go into the studio, we'll start from a production side. What records do you go in and say, okay, this song, to me has the feel of such and such a record.
Mm-hmm.
Where you try to capture that sound.
Yeah, sometimes we do that. Like specifically on this album, Old Soul, we recorded 14 songs that were all recuts. They're all cover tunes. So, you go from different references, like what's your best reference on, let's say, All By Myself. Well, Eric Carmen recorded it earlier, and then Celine Dion, in my opinion, took it up a notch. Well, I can't compete with Celine Dion. I don't even want to pretend. But so I kind of met it in the middle. I sing a lot lower than she does, so the arrangement's a little different, but you bring that song to the players and they bring their A game. And then you try to sprinkle something of your own in there. But this album was really easy for the musicians to play because they had a reference in their own head as to, like, Every Breath You Take or I Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. They all had a preconceived idea about it. But what blows my mind about them, I call them surgeons because they are like so technical with their process that they go through. They can listen to an original song one time and get it in there and play it exactly like what I hear in my head. So I don't even have to translate much anymore. When you get Brent Mason in there, he's played on everybody's album. Everybody, he's like a rock star himself. And you know what the greatest compliment, though, was to me the other day? Do you know who Gordon Mote is?
Yes.
Okay, Gordon is like king, too, to me. Those two guys, Brent Mason and Gordon Mote, were talking back and forth on Facebook about how much they admire one another. So I just chimed in and I said two of my favorites. And both of them wrote me right back and said how much they loved me.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Above, oh, you're talented or you can do this or that, that compliment mattered more to me than anything anybody could have said to me because, again, as a woman, you go into a man's studio, man's world, and not all women have maybe been shown the most respect. And it took me a while to gain their respect, probably. They wouldn't tell me that, but I'm sure they probably just thought I was another chick singer. But at the end of the day, for them to both, at different times, tell me that they loved me, that's a higher compliment than anybody telling me of any talent for me, because that's the ultimate.
Oh, absolutely. No matter what you're doing, whether it's music or welding or whatever the case might be, when somebody who you look up to, who is respected in that particular industry,
Yeah.
Acknowledges your skill, your knowledge, whatever it might be.
But more so your heart.
Compliment. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now, speaking of compliments, you were just had Kelly Lang Day was proclaimed in both Nashville and Oklahoma City. Not one pound, you got two.
I know. I should have really owned that, I guess. But I went to Walmart that day and ate at Cracker Barrel, and I don't take myself very seriously. Can you imagine?
Obviously, I don't take myself seriously either, because I did that yesterday. So
I just, you know what? I loved that. I thought it was hilarious, and I rubbed it into TG a couple of times during the day. But I mean, that's very sweet, but I don't take my pub very seriously. I don't buy my own stuff. It's very flattering, but I should have actually, you know what? Charlie Matos with WSM made a suggestion when he announced that to me. He said, you should go to Southwest and make them fly you back and forth to Oklahoma and Tennessee all day. And I'm like, it sounds like the worst nightmare in the world to me. I'll take the points, but
exactly. Just give me the points, so I won't even use your fuel.
Absolutely.
Now, we're getting close to our time here, but I want to make sure we talk about, you've got a new Christmas single coming up. Tell us about that.
Well, TG and I wrote this song many, many years ago, and he put it out as a solo. I don't even know how long ago it was. And we were looking for songs to perform on Daly and Vincent's Christmas show that's coming up. And he said, you know what? Well, what about Christmas in Mexico? And I said, well, it's not a duet. It is now. So we actually just put our vocals on this morning, finished up a little bit of the track, and we're going back today in about an hour to do some final mixes on that. And hopefully a little video maybe will come out, and we'll have something new for the listeners to have for Christmas.
All right. I know everybody will like that.
It's up and it's fun and kind of carefree.
Wonderful. Now, tell me this before we wrap things up here. Was there anything that you wanted to let the fans know, the viewers know, that we didn't get to?
If you can just send your listeners or your viewers to kellylang.net. They can check it, see what we're up to. I've got several little things that are coming up that I'll put on the schedule, but our store is a lot of fun. We've got a lot of new items in there for old soul promotion. And you can, if you're like me, I like a hard copy of an album or a vinyl or a CD. This happens to not be able to be on vinyl yet or at all at this point, but CDs, I autograph them and they get mailed out right away. They have coffee mugs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm really, I'm pretty involved on social media. So if people would like to look up that stuff, it's under Kelly Lang or Kelly Lang Music. And hopefully if you send me an idea, or a question, I will try to get back to them as soon as possible.
All right. Well, as you were telling everybody that, we had visit kellylang.net rolling across the bottom of the screen. So hopefully everybody does. Yeah, I've been listening to the new album. I really like it, especially, Quando with TG.
That'll be our single, I believe, in February for Valentine's Day. We're going to be performing that on a couple of TV shows, hopefully. And I've got a nice video coming out with that, too. Excellent.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us here on Music Night.
Thank you so much for your patience. I'm not the most skilled, I guess, on technology, but thank you for your waiting on me.
No problem at all. Well, everybody, if you would, when we're done here, go to kellylang.net. You can see all the records, hear the music, follow her on Facebook, Twitter, and whatever other social media that you've got going, Kelly. In the meantime, you follow us here on Music Night at the Majestic and at musicnight.net. Until then, Kelly, thank you very much. Everybody, have a good night.
Thank you.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.